It was supposed to be just another quiet morning. The sun rising over the hills, birds singing, the smell of fresh coffee in the air, but as dust clouds appeared on the dirt road, he knew they weren't neighbors. They weren't friends. And they sure as hell didn't belong here. What happens when a group of cartel enforcers unknowingly targets the wrong man? A man who spent his entire life mastering the art of war, a ghost in the shadows. A legend from the world's most secretive special forces unit, Delta Force, tucked deep in the rural outskirts of southern Texas, just miles from the Mexico border, lies a humble stretch of farmland. Fields of corn swaying with the breeze, a red barn faded by the years, and a small wooden house standing firm against the test of time. This is where John Hawk Hargrove, 67 years old, chose to spend his retirement to anyone passing by. John was just an old farmer, a quiet man, wore denim overalls, fed chickens every morning, and fixed broken fences when the wind tore them down. But those who truly knew him knew something else. Beneath that weathered face, behind those tired gray eyes, lived a man forged in fire. A man who'd spent over 25 years in the most elite unit the U.S. military has ever known. Delta Force. A shadow operative. A commander. A warrior whose missions were never discussed, and whose name was never meant to be known. It was a Tuesday, late spring. The kind of day when the sun feels a little too hot, and the air smells like fresh grass and dust. John was tending to his cattle when he noticed something strange. A convoy. 3 blacked-out SUVs creeping down the gravel road. Tinted windows. No license plates. His instincts, honed from decades in battlefields across the world, kicked in. Something's not right, he muttered, setting down his feed bucket. The truck stopped just outside the wooden fence. Engines idling, doors didn't open. Not yet. John calmly walked toward his front porch, wiping his hands on a rag. His heart didn't race. His breath didn't change because a man like him had seen this before. Many times. Before we continue, you have to understand who this man truly was. John joined the Army at 19, quickly rose through the ranks. His skills in navigation, survival, and combat were unmatched. By 25, he was recruited into Delta Force, the Army's most secretive and elite counterterrorism unit. The kind of unit that doesn't exist on paper. The kind of missions where failure isn't an option, and success means no one ever knows. He led teams deep into enemy territory, dismantling terror cells, rescuing hostages, and eliminating threats the world never heard about, but the battlefield takes its toll. After 25 years, John walked away, not because he was tired, but because he had nothing left to prove. He bought this farm, a place to heal, a place to forget. Or so he thought. SUV doors finally swung open. 6 men stepped out, tattoos crawling up their necks, gold chains dangling, AK-47s and AR-15s slung over their shoulders. Their leader, a tall man with a scar running from his ear to his jawline, stepped forward. "This your land, viejo?" he asked, voice sharp with arrogance. John didn't flinch. "It is." The man grinned, flashing a silver tooth. "Not anymore, turns out." The cartel had recently expanded its operations. Smuggling routes needed space, and John's farm was right in the way. They figured it'd be easy scare an old man, take the land, no witnesses. But what they didn't know was that John Hargrove wasn't just an old man. John looked down at the dirt, sighing softly. "I've worked this land for 15 years, he said quietly, almost to himself. "Built it with my own hands. Buried my wife under that oak tree back there." The leader sneered. "I don't care, viejo. You have till sundown. Leave, or we burn it all." John looked up, eyes narrowing. Not with fear, but something. "El son," he said slowly, "you picked the wrong farm." As the SUVs roared away in a cloud of dust, promising to return by sundown, John calmly walked into his house. The quiet farmer disappeared. Inside the old wooden floorboards, under a hidden latch, was a sealed steel box. He opened it. Laid out perfectly were the tools of his past: a suppressed M4 carbine, a Glock 19, a combat knife, a small drone, night vision goggles, claymore mines still fresh, still deadly. As he assembled his gear, his hands didn't. Shakay's breathing remained steady, because this wasn't panic. This was muscle memory. John knew their tactics. Cartels like these operated with arrogance. They underestimated. They came loud, careless, thinking numbers were enough. But John wasn't planning to fight them head-on. He studied the land, mapped every tree, every rock, every blind corner on the northern fence line. He placed 2 claymores angled perfectly toward the main gate. Near the barn, he set up tripwire traps, leading to homemade flashbangs inside the house. He reinforced the windows, laid spare mags across key positions. He sent his drone flying, scanning the dirt road miles ahead. As the sun dipped, the air grew heavier, and John simply waited at 6:47 p.m., just as the orange sky began fading into purple headlights. Appeared this time, it wasn't 3 SUVs, it was 15 men, armed, cocky, shouting in Spanish, thinking they were about to own this farm. They stormed the main gate, but didn't see the trip laser. Click boom. The claymore shredded the first wave instantly. 3 men went down. Chaos erupted. Gunfire sprayed blindly. Shouts filled the air. John perched in the attic window, squeezed his trigger. Pop, pop. 3 clean headshots. Panic set in. Men scrambled for cover, but there wasn't any. This was open farmland, his farmland, a place he knew better than the lines on his own palm. John moved like a shadow. 1 minute, he was at the window. The next, he was at the barn flanking. Left, he used the darkness, the dust, and the fear against them. When a group tried breaching the back door, a tripwire exploded, sending 2 of them tumbling, ears ringing, eyes blinded. John moved in. 2 shots, center mass, clean, efficient. A man tried to flee toward the truck, but as the engine roared, a single, suppressed round shattered the windshield straight between his eyes. 1 by 1, they fell, not knowing where death was coming from, only that it was coming soon. Only the scar-faced leader remained, bleeding from his leg, trembling behind a haystack, clutching his rifle like a drowning man clutches driftwood. John walked toward him, not sneaking now, just walking dot boots, crunching gravel. The man raised his rifle, but his hands shook too much. "No, no, please. I didn't know. We didn't know who you were," he screamed. John stared down, silent. Then he lowered his own weapon. "You boys should learn something," John said softly, voice like steel wrapped in calm. "Never start a war you're not ready to finish." He picked up the man's radio. "Tell whoever's listening, this farm is off limits forever." Then he walked away. When local law enforcement arrived the next morning, called anonymously, they found a scene they couldn't quite explain. 15 cartel enforcers. Every single one neutralized. No property damage beyond a few bullet holes. No civilian casualties. And John, he was back in his field, feeding his chickens. Same denim overalls, same quiet smile. Sheriff Daniels shook his head, half grinning. "Damn, John. One day you'll have to tell me what you used to do." John simply tipped his hat. "Just a farmer, Sheriff. Just a farmer." There are men who live in the spotlight, whose names are etched in history books. And then there are the quiet ones, the ghosts, the protectors who walk among us, unseen, unnoticed. Until the day they're needed, John Hargrove didn't ask for trouble. But when evil came knocking, it learned the hard way that some men are not to be messed with. In a world full of noise, sometimes the most dangerous men are the ones who say the least. Never underestimate the quiet ones.